So, James Drew here is absolutely onto something. Not only is the Smithsonian hiding loads of huge skeletons, and we have seen pictures and depictions of such huge skeletons, we've even seen a picture of the Queen next to a ginormous skeleton. There are still people in Tibet that grow up to 8 foot tall, right? And this video is quite interesting. It shows up at 1:44. Let's just play it for a second.
Episode 353 from the Land of Giants.
Hey, buddy. How are you doing? He's like, I'm doing good. I'm enjoying this. You know, I'm a giant squirrel, and he is. I want you to understand that definitely, without a doubt, there are biblical scholars, Heiser is one of them, who's very insistent that no, the giants did not exist, and it's important that you do not take the literal definitions given for height as literal, and that all those are just exaggerating ways of describing brutishness. And certainly there are definitely some truths to that, and I just want you to watch me pay homage to that, and also remind you of Rule 2.
Attention shoppers. The following animals are allowed to be giant: birds, bats, mice, cats, lizards, marsupials, elephants, crocodiles, fish, sharks, insects, plants, trees. Thank you.
It's taking science first and then applying all of the rules of science to what must be therefore in the Bible. And this is exactly what the creationists do, right? So the creationists do it from here up, and the scientismists do it from here down. It's the exact same issue.
The following things are not allowed to be giant. And
Think about this. Think about the Pleistocene, right? We have huge wolves. We have massive, great big animals. Yeah? Where's these pictures? Come on. We got... Why is it not showing me that picture? We got the Smilodon, American lion. We got the huge, great, big fawns of these things, yeah? All of that. And actually, this is like 12,000 years ago, right? Evie! So, 12,000 years ago, we've had these huge beasts. But hey, we didn't have big people. No. That's not allowed. Big people, like giants, to fit with the giant creatures, that's not allowed. Think about it. Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to you? No, we had small people then. All big animals, but people didn't grow big. That's not allowed. Yeah? Of course not. Of course it's not allowed. Big bison, big everything, but not big people. Nah. Not allowed. Even though this is 12,000 years ago, and we were there at the time. We were there. And maybe there was giants too. And maybe there was smaller people too. Bit like in what Tolkien describes. No? Yes? Can we think for ourselves? No, just has to be wrong. This just has to be wrong. This can't be possible. This just has to be wrong. This just all has to be wrong. That's just allegorical. They don't exist. They don't exist. And by all accounts, they ate children. Doesn't that sound like the story of Kronos who ate his own children? But that's all gotta be fable. That's all gotta be fable. That can't be right. That can't be true. That can't have existed. Like, ever.
Claiming that the Lord's masters of the land were showing the strangers a great favor and permitting them to live there. As a recompense for this kindness, they obligated the Olmecs to serve as slaves, neither hunting nor fishing themselves, but depending on their new servants, i.e. the giants, for subsistence. This ill-treated the Nahuas. The Nahuas are basically people, one of which is the Aztec that you've heard of, soon found their condition insupportable. Another great cause of offense was the Kiname were addicted to sodomy, a vice which they refused to abandon even when they were offered the wives and daughters of the newcomers. At last it was resolved at a council of the Olmec chiefs to free themselves once and for all from their oppressors. The means adopted were peculiar. The giants were invited to a magnificent banquet. The richest food and the most tempting native beverages were set before the guests. All gathered at the feast, and as a result of the unrestrained appetites were soon stretched senseless like so many blocks of wood on the ground. And thus they became an easy prey for the reformers, and perished to the man. The Olmecs were free, and the day of their national prosperity dawned.
But we can talk about mud floods and all sorts of ridiculous things. And he bemoans this in one of his videos, and I absolutely agree with him. All that crap can be bandied about and it gets 100,000 views, and when somebody intelligent comes across and really looks at things and really shows you things and really opens your minds, who has 17.4k subscribers yet gets like pitiful amounts of views, yeah, but nothing to see here, nothing to see here, move on, nothing to see, can't be true, don't worry. There's no giants, never were. Don't worry.
That are allowed to be giants, and things that are not allowed to be giants. Right?
That's rule number 1.
And you are going to learn the rules around here. I want to remind everyone of rule 1. Okay? Everyone, remember rule 1, as I'm telling you rule 2. But rule 2 is you can only think of certain things as giant. Okay? Now, those rules are things that are allowed to be giant. Birds, no problem at all. Birds. Giant bird poop from dinosaurs, no problem. Birds are allowed to be giant. Bats, yes, of course. Pterodactyls, are you kidding me? Of course bats can be giant. Mice, yes. Giant mice. Land mice, land rats, right? Cats, of course. Saber-toothed tiger, saber-toothed tiger, right? Lizards, are you kidding me? Of course there's giant lizards. Marsupials, elephants, crocodiles, fish, sharks, insects, plants, and trees. All of those things are allowed to be giant. You follow me? This is the rule, all right? I could make this easier because there's only one thing that cannot be giant, okay? And that's man. It's the only one. Absolutely zero exceptions. Now, Native America, they have many giants, all right? But James, what about rule 2? Keep in mind that Native Americans we get to call savage, okay? So if you put them inside quotes, that means that anything that they say that's contrary to rule number 2, it's not a problem. They're savages. So you just say that it's a savage belief, and you'll be okay. All right? You got me on that? Rule 2ers out there. You know who you are. All right, so you can follow along. You're okay, knowing that these giants exist because they came from savages. So don't worry about it.
I think a lot of people just can't keep up with his intellect because his intellect is absolutely fantastic. His choice of words, his wordplay, his innuendo, his sarcasm, his humor is just absolutely brilliant. And not a lot of people can find the ear to have the patience to sit there and get into his use of words, his parables. He did an awesome video on the health situation here. Absolutely awesome. It's been out for a year. It's ridiculous what's going on here, yeah?
Yeah, so, did that one. Did about 5 of them. I won't play them all for you. I guess I could, but I'm very pleased with them, but they're not well received. That thing's been out a year and it's got 4,000 views. Now, obviously, I've had 7 strikes on this channel since last May, so that's 14 months. So every 2 months, I get shut down for a while. Today does mark, though, however, the first day where all the strikes are gone.
Yeah, I wonder why he's getting strikes, and Mud Fossil University is just running around spreading stupidity, yeah, changing history as we go, jiggling along, making it up. None of it's proven. Just Fantasyland. Truth of Fantasyland.
No issues not discussing that. But here's the thing. I keep getting inspired by these ideas. I can't help it. So I've had that feeling that, you don't have that glow necessary. I've had that for fucking ever, so don't worry. That's not about that. It's more about, I find myself so addicted to the idea that I don't see anyone else covering. If I see someone else covering the idea, I tend to walk away. I'm just like, okay, it's done. Somebody's got that. And I don't see someone having where I'm going a lot. And so you just would naturally think that would eventually draw an audience, eventually. But it's weird. It's really been more of a downhill decline, if anything. It's been very, very good lately. I've been...
Yeah, mate, because I don't want us to see your stuff. Yeah? The History Channel for Truthers, yeah. Somebody made a good observation here. Observation. The numbers aren't up because I want to give my insight into why I think this is, and I might be totally wrong. You might find it helpful anyway. I'm noticing that I have more than a few really enlightened friends that I've sent your material to, but the ones that stay and are hooked by you are of a deeper intellect. Be aware that your delivery style and contact is highly intellectual for a new listener. When I started listening, I felt as though I was listening in many ways to a foreign language that I needed to unravel. But the more I listened, I found myself wondering how I ever felt that way. I think it's very insightful that you said you wanted to work on your storytelling, because honestly, that is probably the answer you are seeking, and your soul already knows it. Storytelling is an amazing art form. I think it could be the bridge that you're looking for to help newbies decode you more quickly and continue to hang around. I think his storytelling is absolutely spot on and excellent. So we got this fine, funny, intelligent man sitting here coming up with real correct observations, and he's being pushed into the backlands of YouTube as usual, as per usual. You know, the little gems are always hidden. Listen to what he's, it does, it hurts. And the absurdities that are being pushed out there that are getting hundreds of thousands of views compared to this. It is sad.
Very good lately. I've been very happy with it lately. Although the numbers still do, They go down, not up. And it's certainly hard to not compare myself to people like Quantum of Consciousness, as I'm seeing in the chat, or John Levi. You guys are mentioning them too. Of course there's that, How could you not compare that? And it's just amazing how a video about insinuating that the city of New York was here the entire time, and that Indians just didn't fucking notice it, I guess is the idea, that the island of Manhattan, the place of the longbows, we'll do an episode where we explain, oh no, the buildings were here the whole time. And you have all this Indian history that's looking at you like, what the fuck, dude? This was called Land of the Longbows. It's where we would come to pull the wood out to make our longbows to Manhattan. But the videos that are like, 70,000 views are like, stories about that.
They're bullshit, which is just where YouTube wants you, watching the bullshit.
Stories about, yeah, man, it was all here. St. Louis Arch was totally here 1,000 million years ago. It turned out to be a giant's braces. That a giant had a retainer, and when the giant died, the retainer got stuck in the mud, and that's the St. Louis Arch. And we've been faking it the whole time. This whole time. And, that kind of stuff is kind of like the History Channel for truthers in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's fucking bullshit. Stop watching that crap. Start thinking. Ugh, I don't know.
Those are all parts of it. It's actually part of why I get so butthurt about things like Flattoberfest, because I needed that audience last year bad, desperately. And I got ixnayed on it. And then this year the same thing happened. And this year it was because I had the nerve to point out that it happened last year. And it's just like, okay, I get it. But this is part of the interfaction thing, right? And even with Flattoberfest, you see that there's a lot of people that have different theories about the Earth. One of which probably is that the St. Louis fucking Arch was some giant kid's retainer that dropped in the mud. And his parents were like, that's too dirty now, you can't pick it up now. And then it's like, oh, hey, look at this. There's a retainer. Looks like there's some chicken caught in between the little prongs of the retainer. Yeah. Well, look, 100,000 views. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
100,000 views of them.
Yeah. I've stopped watching all that crap. So he's saying, yeah, he's been shunned by the truth community, yeah, for his message.
No one's obligated to invite me to shit. They're not. But when you're dealing with a community that's living on the realm of how everyone is ostracized because they don't buy into the same bullshit, it's kind of weird to be ostracized by the people that are bitching about how everyone's ostracized. That part's rough. And it shouldn't be rough because I need to alchemize myself, right? But guys, within every closed system, you can't help but try and find the cosmology of it. And when you look at the giants, when you look at the origin story of Noah itself, you tap into Aperture, you start to realize there's certain things that are just too painful to look at. When you really understand that, then you know that deep in your history, there must be some things that we collectively find too painful to look at. It's too painful for us to see. When I use those glasses and look back at history, especially through the biblical record, and I don't just mean the Bible, I'm talking about even the Talmud. It's going into the oral history of what's being recorded. Through the filter of how do we get back to the beginning again? That's what I'm doing. I'm using a cipher of this system is a closed system, which means the beginning and the end are the same. The alpha and the omega are the same. The snake is biting its tail. So how is it that in this system those two things are closed and they're completing each other? How does it get that way? How does the future become the past? How does the ancient future become the ancient past? And I don't see anyone looking at that. Instead, I see arguments about how someone's a fucking Luciferian because they said this. Or someone believes too much that there are melted buildings, so we can't have them come here. Or whatever the fuck was wrong with James. Who the fuck knows? Because I can't even get a straight answer. And it sucks, because if people would just give straight answers, we could all grow. I could hear the data and go, oh, okay, I think actually, I've been told, apparently.